This is IBM Museum. I still do have a few of the non-IBM 3270 microchannel adapters I have to identify, but I've of course put away that planar rig that I had out in a previous video for getting the adapter IDs so that I can go through and do my live stream tomorrow. And that's an unboxing of a new old stock 5494. That's called a remote communications controller. We'll get all into that. I've featured the one unit I've had on previous videos, but we're going to see what's included in that package and go through even some items that I do not have with my older unit. And that is 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is GMT -7. And that comes out to noon Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. My regularly scheduled live stream I do on Saturday mornings. And of course, tomorrow is the 20th of November, 2021. So I look forward to seeing you there for the live stream. I do want to go over in this video, and of course these are non-IBM microchannel adapters. In a way, I'll show kind of a neat little thing of these, and go through from the oldest to the newest. And these are adapters from a company called DCA. And there's also going to be some related stuff for the attachmate microchannel boards and an older company that was bought up that DCA did called the Forte. And they have there's some really strange adapters. I have some of these adapters in microchannel form and also that 8-bit form for the like the IBM PC, XT, those systems. But these adapters in particular, and I'll go through and I can switch over to the camcorder view just to kind of get some close-ups as I go through for showing these adapters of how they're set up. Now, from the oldest to the newest, this adapter seems to have right at the end of 1989 to early 1990 is the dates of the chips that are on this board. And of course, the one thing that you'll immediately notice is I'm holding it in the microchannel orientation. Now, how it would be plugged into a system, we've got this module in the back of the back bracket, pretty standard microchannel fare for how this board is arranged. But it has this connector here, and this is actually for an 8-bit system. Goes through, you could use the adapter in either type of computer, and it does have a switch block on the adapter, and of course that's not really with microchannel convention. Microchannel was supposed to go through and avoid the use of those switch blocks for the adapter configuration. We'll get to see a little bit more of how that, when it's in an 8-bit system, and I wish I had with the other adapters here, I wish I had the way to go through and get both of these set up for showing how they can be in microchannel or the 8-bit systems. And this adapter is the same model number. And if I had another module and bracket for this, I could go through and do to show both configurations of that. Now, back in the day, I mean, this one has, and I'm not sure what I was doing at the time, the Scotch tape and putting the marker. There's the adapter ID on there. I had some earlier ones I peeled, and I think I peeled it off of one of the other adapters. I got an F8, F8 on that one. I'll probably go through and look up a little bit. There's not really necessarily a page of information on these, although there's pictures and the ADFs, of course. And then, of course, I just have strangely enough for this one, I just have a question mark on it. Apparently, I didn't go through or didn't have a reaction for the adapter ID is what it may have been. And we'll get looking at, the potential aspect for that. Now, this is actually a later adapter. This was produced in 1991 by DCA. That you can see that there's a little bit of a change of the layout on the boards. Of course, I'm trying to make sure I don't obscure anything with the webcam picture I have up. And the modules appear the same on the back. That go through and get at least in the correct adapter here. These modules appear like they're marked a little bit differently in a way, but they appear to have the same components. And I can go through and get looking at those a little bit more and do pictures and things like that just to figure it out. Because as it is, that was the module. There's reduced number of about half the switches with this later board. And this is actually in the 8-bit orientation for this adapter. You just went through and you flipped around that module. Of course, you had to go through and remove these thumb screws and the bracket to go through and to change the orientation. And there's just a kind of a blue plastic housing, and that puts of course the components on this other side when it's in an 8-bit system, where you have a little bit of an overlap to an adapter that could be next to this. Now, one of the things I did notice when I was working with these adapters and pulling them out, handling them, getting them ready for the video, is this one actually looks like it does have a little bit of damage on the pins of that chip. And I can probably get a dental tool in there and stuff like that just to kind of straighten that out and make sure that those have contact. You do see that these boards are scratched up a little bit. They've obviously just been thrown in a bin. In a lot of places, that's where I retrieved a lot of the stuff, where the cards scraped against one another. But we can see about going through and at least getting these set up for pictures. I do have one of each type of adapter, and I can show the different configurations of how those how that module would flip around and the appropriate bracket for the orientation. And we'll see this a little bit more with some of the attachment adapters I'll go through later on, that they do have the coax output, and then they also have an RJ11 style. I forget there's a connector that's a little bit wider than an RJ11 that I can't think of right off the top of my head, but I think there's just the 4-pin connectors. And that was for using the so-called Cat1, or pretty much telephone wiring that was in a lot of buildings and stuff like that as you went through. And rather than going through and doing coax, it had the ability to go through. And I've got, even in my bin, I've got one little bail-in that goes through and adapts between the coax and that RJ11 style connector. And so just a real interesting, this can be called kind of a flip adapter that goes through, where it is able to go from the one bus type to the other, or you receive the adapter and based on whatever type of system you had, you could put it in there. I'm just looking through, there's even I'll have to determine, look at that detail a little bit more too. It looks like there might be some damage on here, but so this may not be necessarily a good adapter for pictures or even putting into the circuit with where it would you'd have shorts between the pins. But certainly these can be documented a little bit more, and just that strange style. You'll sometimes see this sort of flip connection that the manufacturers went through and designed in both that microchannel and 8-bit format. A lot of times, as we'll see with DCA, they did have older 8-bit adapters and just went through and they're just basically putting that design over to microchannel. And even some of the adapters I have between the microchannel and the 8-bit versions look very, very similar. So just a view of just the strange things that that were out there as a matter of 30 years ago, when these adapters were kind of in their prime. So that's what I have for this brief video, and just looking forward, I'll starting to get set up and get that that box of that 5494 on the bench here, getting prepped up for the live stream tomorrow. I hope you can join me for that. You enjoy this content, click on that like button, please. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and recommend it to your friends that may be interested in this sort of content. Always need more subscribers. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.